Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, and we are meeting to review the strategic plan of the Connect Montgomery Alliance, also known as CMA. Beyond providing an update on current plans, another important purpose of the review is to encourage dialogue between the Government Operations Committee members and the cable plan stakeholders before the cable plan is finalized. This way, the executive submission of the final version of the cable plan on March 15th can better reflect the committee's and full council's priorities and direction. Unless my colleagues have any comments, I will now ask Dr. Costas Turregas, our IT advisor, to introduce our esteemed guests and also walk us through the following themes: review of the strategic plan, its intended outcomes and strategies, especially these where the committee's support is requested, CMA's role and outcomes of its activities in the current pandemic, preparation for possible major cable plan allocation restructuring due to continued cable franchise fee decline, and impact of the collaboration coordinator, a position that was approved last year. So these are the themes that hopefully will guide our conversation. And again, unless my GO colleagues have any introductory remarks or observations, which they have noted, I will turn it over to Dr. Turregas to introduce our esteemed guests, and then we can get into the conversation.
Great. Thanks very much, Nancy. The CMA is, as the name implies, is an alliance. It's difficult to hold together an alliance, especially in a time of pandemic. Different organizations with different goals, nonprofits, governmental organizations, and yet I think CMA has proven worthy to the task. They've continued to work very effectively together as a team. They've chosen leadership from amongst them. The current chair of the CMA is Barry Hudson, our own PIO. So I'll let Barry introduce himself, his leadership team, and also give you just a sense of what the strategic plan is. You've now had a chance to read it in my packet. There's also a detailed presentation. I've asked Barry to maybe focus on 3, 4, 5 slides specifically that he wants your reaction to, because again, it's time for you as the Government Operations Fiscal Policy Committee to give input to the Alliance. So with that as an introduction, Barry, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time this morning. We're happy to be here this morning to share our strategic plan and some of the great work of this alliance over the last year or so. I do want to start by saying that our theme for the last almost 2 years now has been collaboration. Throughout this pandemic, we've had to work closer together than we had before, and sometimes, those situations create new opportunities that I think have been really, really good for us. That collaboration has led to us accomplishing a lot of good things, which we want to share with you today. I've had the pleasure of serving as the chair for the group for a little over a year, and sometimes what happens is, obviously, in these groups where everyone steps back, there's one person left standing forward, and in this particular case, that happened to be me. But behind me, after they all step back, is a extremely apt group of people. I just chair the meetings. They're the ones who are actually the knowledge-based individuals. So joining us here today, and I'll actually go through our team. Everyone is not here today, but representing the county executive's office, obviously, is me, along with Tracy from our team. Sonia Healy is my counterpart on the council side. And Sky, who is running our meeting today, has taken a great role with the team, and we're glad to have him join us. We also have Melissa Pace from the community college, who's a part of the team. Derek Kenny, who has been extremely valuable to us in the last few months, filling a new role. Also, Nanette Hobson, very well from the community, from Montgomery Community Media, from the public schools. I like to just call him Dr. Dick. I think you guys know who he is. He's a very knowledgeable individual and has been a tremendous resource for our group over the last year or so. Our ace in the hole for everything, who prepared a couple of things today for us that you'll look at, our video that we're going to show you shortly, as well as our PowerPoint. Melissa, we call her Melissa A because we have two Melissas, Melissa P and Melissa A. And from, I don't know if Kathy's here from the city of Rockville. I did not see her, nor do I know if Alvaro is here from the city of Tacoma Park. But it is this group, along with a few others, that are part of our team that meet on a monthly basis to go over our strategy, to go over the things that we have to deal with. I want to turn it over to Melissa A to show our quick video. It's about 2 minutes long. I see you want to jump in here, Costas. I'm sorry.
Barry, yeah, if you permit, we do have Joe Webster, who's just joined us as well
Joe
from the also Broadband Programs, who's an indispensable part, obviously, of the whole effort. Hagop is here from Rockville 11, representing the Rockville station. Again, you see it's a mix of administrators, actual hands-on people that are working in the TV world and in the cable world. And I also wanted to say that Julie Knight has joined us on the also management and budget. We made a decision between OMB and the council offices, and Ms. Navarro agreed to have these discussions, stay away from fiscal discussions, financial discussions, because in February, we just don't have enough data yet in terms of what the executive is planning to do with the cable plan itself. But Julie Knight is here simply to listen to the discussion and to know how best to reflect the strategic discussion you're about to have as a committee on the budget deliberations that are going on hot and heavy right now before March 15th. So apologies, Barry, I just wanted to intervene and introduce the last people that I happen to be able to see.
No problem. Thank you. So Melissa, if you could go ahead and play our video. This particular video kind of encapsulates some of the work that we've been engaged in and the collaboration over the last couple of years. So thank you, Melissa. That video kind of encapsulates some of the things that the partners, the seven groups that make up CMA, the kind of work that we were doing during the pandemic. We were still out, we were still shooting, we were still creating programming, and we were collaborating and working with you all, working with the county executive's office, working with the municipalities and the other entities to make sure that there was information out there for our residents to be able to understand what was going on during this time period. So Melissa, if we can go ahead and start our quick little PowerPoint. I think you know the organizations that make up our group, but I think the key for us is that we try to provide, a hyper local platform to fill that void of information and news. I mean, as you know, there is a huge void of local news, and one of the things that we try to do is make sure that we get that information out and down to the level of locals, and that's where the collaboration of our group has been effective over the last year. And the content over the last year has spanned from all the areas that you see here, whether it was COVID restrictions, a lot of information on racial equity, public safety, and the like. We really focused this year on making sure that there was good information out there through all the channels that we have on key things that were very important to our residents' lives, as well as our business, whether it was food resources or rental assistance. We were out there making sure that our residents and businesses understood what was going on and that the government was still working and there was information that they still needed to have during this very critical time period. I said earlier that collaboration was kind of our watchword. And one of the things that we did and one of the things that CMA has focused on is making sure that we do a lot of idea sharing and making sure that our initiatives and the things that we're all pursuing separately, that those outcomes we shared so that we could either correct those situations where we made mistakes, but also learn from each other. And some of the things that we've been able to accomplish this year, we've added content that's available now in different languages: Vietnamese, French, Portuguese, Chinese, Spanish, American Sign Language, Korean. We've also done some things around broadcasting, a lot of meetings. So you guys know that we produced a number of town halls and other public meetings to allow you all and people at the local level to get out messages that were really important to residents. So we played a role in some of those hybrid meetings and those face-to-face meetings that were done, but more importantly, the ones that were done virtually that required a lot of technical skills that delivered really important information to our residents. One of the other things that we did is in our technical pursuits of these hybrid meetings and other events, we had to look at our technology and see what things we needed to adjust and make sure that we could deliver things that we had never tried to deliver before. Some of the things that we've done have allowed us to find some cost savings. For example, our engineers coordinated to do some cost-effective solutions from the captioning piece, so we can make sure from an equity perspective we have those captioned areas. But some of the things that we did to reduce the cost of captioning we got into a situation where we were able to save approximately $30,000. But that was because of collaboration and working together and finding those types of solutions. In addition to that, we kept residents across all forms and platforms informed about COVID and made sure that they had the information on Cable Channel 10, as well as our COVID Corona Montgomery information. For the last 22 months, we provided lots of information to folks. Our social media took a tremendous jump. We went up about 50% increase in total followers in 2021. Our overall reach was over 250,000 people. Our engagement went up 50%. We had combined analytics where we have almost 55,000 people who are YouTube subscribers for the channels in the network. Our Facebook followers combined are about 86,000. Our Twitter followers about 27,000, and our Instagram followers about 20,000. And it rounds out to about 187,000 folks who are following us through this new mean. We've made this adjustment not just because we needed to, but we've been trying to reach our audiences where they are. And we know that social media is an important place where they are on a regular basis. So we had to make sure that we were where they were and had the information that was needed to do that. We were pleased to say that we have identified an individual to be our coordinator, and that position has been filled. That person will be assisting us in a lot of administrative ways, and that administration will really be to kind of keep the trains moving. As Costa said earlier, 7 organizations working together, it's really important for us to keep that coordination going. And for years, there hasn't necessarily been an individual responsible for that on a daily basis. So we have a part-timer who is going to be helping us with that. And that individual will keep us really honest on our strategic plan specifically, but we also have an individual who actually happens to have some production skills that may be able to help us in some other ways. But we're excited about this. I'm certainly excited because that person's going to assist me and the others in kind of moving our agenda as much as possible. But we see this role as really being key to moving the work of the Alliance forward. In terms of our goals for this year, we have developed what we're calling a data-driven and measurable work plan. And I'll use the word that Costas shared with us a month ago or so in our meeting. We want to be outcome focused. Results are one thing and activity is another, but we want to really be focused on what kind of outcomes can we produce. And our work plan with the new coordinator will help us to do that work, helping us tabulate and have the data that we need to know whether we need to change directions or whether we're going in the right direction. But in addition to that, to help us analyze the information that we've got. From the standpoint of social media, we want to sustain the progress we've made. Post-pandemic engagement will be harder for us. It won't be as easy once we move, hopefully, from pandemic stage into endemic. People will be distracted, and the COVID information that has, kind of made us all look for the same information all the time will change. That's going to require us to be much more focused on what's the content that we look at and how do we engage our residents and viewers in a much different way. So sustaining that is going to be really, really important for us, and it won't be as easy as we think, which is why focusing on this as a goal is really important for us. Enhancing our features and increase awareness that will drive traffic to Connect Montgomery. There are a couple of things that we've been doing over the last year. One of the things is that we've been working a lot more closely with the PIOs throughout the government, making sure that not just the cable office, but also the channels connected with Connect Montgomery more utilized by our PIOs. Just last month and about a week ago in our monthly PIO meeting, we talked about using the channels as part of your communications plan, not just the channels, but also their properties as it relates to social media and the like, and planning for using those as we're putting information out. And that has actually gotten very, very good response from our PIOs. They're going to start using it more, I think, but we're trying to kind of keep that information out front. In fact, just a couple of days ago, the CMA is going to be helping out with the Martin Luther King event that's on Friday. All the channels have agreed to do something to kind of get the word out. And that's just another example of how we're going to continue to kind of try to increase traffic to connect Montgomery and that piece. The other piece is ensure that that Comcast activates our final HD channel. That channel will be a new HD channel for the school system. We're excited about that, and we're just awaiting that for final approval. That kind of rounds out our goals. The rest of the folks are here. If we have questions that you would like us to address or answer that are a little more specific, but I do want to just thank each of them for their commitment. They're very committed to the work they do. They're very committed to the audiences that they serve. From our marketing committee, which Melissa chairs, to the work that we do with students and things of that nature, everybody understands the importance of this work. It's a changing world, as we know. The world of cable is changing around us. But what this group is very aware and has put at the forefront is preparing for that change. And our growth on social media and a few other things are an example of us kind of pivoting and being ready for that change and positioning ourselves strategically for the future. So with that, Madam Chair, I will yield to any questions that the committee may have for us.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson, and thank you to all the partners. I have, I guess, I'll start with just a general question about, framing the moment that we find ourselves in, right? As I was looking at all the slides and all the, work that all of you have done, and the degree of cohesion and collaboration that is evident and that has been evident throughout this pandemic, I couldn't help but reflect on, we have had so many conversations in this committee, kind of really, really, truly deliberating on, what does reality look like on the ground, right? I mean, we for a while have been talking about all of this, about, how people are migrating to social media, how we have to find folks where they are. It's kind of amazing because it's almost as if we were preparing for this moment, right? Taking incremental steps. And it feels like these 2 years literally just accelerated all of that and cemented that shift, which is really, truly incredible. I mean, it's kind of crazy how sometimes, crisis will do that, but you can't get there unless you've already, unless you had already started to just examine and think through these horizon issues, et cetera, and have people who are willing to entertain those changes. Because, there's no doubt that it is so difficult, I think, especially when you've been doing something for so long a certain way, to even as human beings, allow yourself to entertain the fact that things may be different. And I think this group collectively has really done that. I mean, I just applaud you, because I know we all struggle with how to communicate effectively in a county that is so complex, extraordinarily diverse on so many levels, under such pressure, right? So kudos to you guys. I mean, I have to say it's just really awesome. Especially as you know, I keep talking about my farewell tour, and I just feel really good that I've had the privilege and the honor to chair this committee through so many different iterations and shifts, et cetera, difficult times, good times. I think this is kind of like a nice, kind of arriving at a destination, because now I think all of you now have such a good template for how to then continue to expand what you're doing. And so I'm just really curious about some of your thoughts regarding, this notion of communication, engagement, results. I am convinced more than ever that this piece should be elevated to this, into the same space as we have elevated certain policy areas. And I say that because now we know, and that's not going to change, it's only going to get more challenging, that unless we have a robust, communication engagement strategy, we can do whatever we're doing. We can, put forth the most extraordinary initiatives. We can fund the most extraordinary things. But if our constituents don't understand and or know about them, we are going to fall short. And without local newspapers, without, this piece, I think it's going to have to be prioritized. And even though we're seeing a decline in cable subscription and things like that, I guess for future councils, if and executive administrations, they're going to have to figure out how to continue to fund this type of work, because it's essential to everything else that we're doing. And so I was just curious about your reflections on that, right? Like, 10 years from now, right? Understanding that communication changes every day. I mean, every single day. And I happen to have, two extraordinarily young professionals who are in this space in other arenas, right, in the private sector, but they're like in the vanguard of how do you do that. And so I'm curious about what are your thoughts in terms of, where we have arrived and where do you see things going in light of course, the declined revenues with cable, but in terms of how do you fit this work now into the ecosystem of public service, of serving, constituents, et cetera? What are some ideas that you have identified as sort of ways to continue to strengthen what you've done, kind of like you had to do because of the pandemic, you responded, you did it, and now, okay, so now what do we do? Sort of next 10 years type thing, just general thoughts, just curious about that.
I'll take a stab at it, but I know Dick has also had some thoughts on this, but I'll take a general stab. I think you are absolutely right. There are a lot of things that have changed even pre-pandemic, and I think one of the things that changed drastically, particularly with the last administration, presidential, was social media. Social media just exploded as a communications channel during the 4 years under the previous president. Everyone is on it. Everyone uses it. Everyone looks to it on a daily basis. And I think the pivot that we've made over the last couple of years is understanding that. And I think creating content that is usable in that medium is going to be extremely important. You mentioned your young people. I have a couple of them as well. And one of the things that I think that we have to do as a county, using the word ecosystem, is when we look at residents now who are, I'll make them 25 to 35 years old, in 10 years, those 25 and 35-year-olders will have children in our school system. They'll move from the apartment buildings to homes. Mm-hmm. They may not be watching our cable channels or following us on social media. So we're going to have to adapt to how they're going to communicate, because the way they're communicating now, they'll carry with them 5 or 10 years later. So one of the things that I think we've been doing and trying to do as a group is to begin to make that pivot to what does the future look like and what channels and what content. Because the channels may not change drastically, but how they consume content is very, very different. It's not as long. It's not as wordy. It is much more visual. And I think the beauty of this network is we're very video content structured. So we all have the capability to produce content that can be used in these other in new ways. And I think that's the advantage that we have. And as a county, taking advantage of the skill sets that exist at the community college, that exist with MCM, that exist at the school system, and begin to put that content out and begin to meet people where they are from a content perspective will be very, very important. So that's just kind of my quick assessment, but I know my colleagues have much more in-depth thoughts than I see. Melissa's hand is up.
Yeah, Space.
Hello, nice to speak to you all today. I agree with everything Barry said. And one thing we're doing now to try to prepare ourselves on how to get there is to look at who we're hiring. So as we've had vacancies, retirements, whatnot, we're trying to bring in people that can lead this charge. MC, for example, we just hired an MRX speaking producer. So now the county has 3 MRX speaking producers between the council, MC, TV, and Tacoma Park. We've also hired a lot of Hispanic, Latinx producers. We're starting to think about what's next. We've got Portuguese, we've got French we're planning. So who we hire is part of that, and they will bring to us ideas that we maybe haven't thought of because of their experiences. Other two technologies we can capitalize on are streaming technologies. There's a lot of space in streaming that we can look into, and we can also follow the lead of Howard University, which just recently announced their Next Gen TV project, which is supported by the National Association of Broadcasters, and it's a collaboration with the commercial broadcasters in DC to launch a whole new platform of a shared technology space that will bring digital technologies and education and academics together in a new way. So we're pretty far from that. We're still struggling to get our HD channel, here in the PEG space. But Connect Montgomery is thinking about these things, and we're not just sitting back and resting on our laurels of success. And to your point, we've talked about these conversations for a long time, and I'm sure you remember the county report this week. Weekly broadcasts we were doing. That was a collaboration, but it was also after the fact. We were recapping a lot of things that had happened. Now we've shifted to pre-promoting things, asking people to come out to the all Spanish budget forum and asking them in Spanish and giving context to why it's important, and then having the meeting itself in Spanish, and then recapping in Spanish, and then airing that on a Spanish channel that Dick runs. So there's a lot of pieces that we've been thinking about, and also the economic recovery part of the pandemic. So I feel like we're starting to align to be able to think in the direction that you've mentioned.
That's very, that's so on point. And again, sometimes I feel like we're literally always chasing, where and how to impart the information and how to meet people where they are. One piece that I know I'm always really mindful, and I've been talking to my staff about this, is the whole notion of our Latino community, because as you were saying, Barry, about 10, 15 years from now, these young people are going to have children in school. But the truth is that a lot of folks in our Latino community are already, second generation. I mean, they're fully bilingual, right? And bicultural. And so the strategy there, then it's more about like, cultural proficiency. So folks feel like, oh, I'm included. Like I see that, I'm sort of reflected in this, whatever approach, program, whatever it is. There's the space for me there. It may not necessarily be fully in Spanish, right? But I see myself reflected. And so kind of like figuring out those, those nuances about culture, what culture means for different groups and of community members in our county, which is not about, oh, we're trying to divide everybody. It's just about signaling that we see you. Like, we see you, and we know that there are these extraordinarily rich networks that are cultural in nature in our county, whether we're talking about restaurants or performances, whatever it is that connects people, music, performances, and things like that, but that also contribute to the fabric of who we are in the county. And I saw that, no doubt, during this pandemic, how fortunate we were to quickly identify a lot of those spaces, the WhatsApp, using WhatsApp number. And it was my chief of staff, who's originally from Nigeria, that said, immigrants, we all live on WhatsApp, right? I'll confess, I only have a few groups because I can't keep up with it. But immediately it was like, hey, let's activate a WhatsApp group, and I know that thing has just blown up. So it's just that piece of figuring out which platform where people are, and it might be multiple ones. It may not just be one; it just might be multiple ones for different folks, and then in general. So, but no, I mean, I will confess that especially after these 2 years, been reflecting a lot on the role of communication and engagement, how central it is. And so, again, I think that as we track the issue of funding sources, we're going to have to carve out a space for this work that has the appropriate resources and the capacity. I mean, I know I'm proud that my colleagues always supported, when I began to push some more capacity for even the council's communication office, created the NDA for that, but it wasn't because, we just want to spend money. It's because, again, if you don't have the information, then you're at a loss. I mean, information is power. During the pandemic, information was saving lives, which is insane. I mean, how that happened. And look at the results, right? I mean, the whole thing about closing the vaccination gaps in the Latino community and our Black community, it was all about information sharing and then providing the targeted services. But one has to be connected to the other. And you guys played a significant role in all of that. So yeah, I really thank you for that. Let's see, Dr. Turregas, what else do we need to?
Even though
good time here talking about all these things.
No, you're right on point. In fact, there was a county council-wide discussion yesterday with the staff about racism and how the kind of major things like how parts of our community think that getting a shot is a plot by the government and so on and so forth. There's a role for communications, and a communications which is adjusted to be received by the other side. In other words, find the right frequency to get in there using culture appropriate mechanisms. And again, the CMA is so diverse, so broad, that they have the capability, if one pathway doesn't work, they can always go to the other. So, but let me state the obvious. In order for the CMA to do the work, we need to have a CMA. We need to sustain CMA. And this is not a budget discussion that will happen after March 15th. But one of the questions that my packet has raised is right now we're losing about $700,000 to $800,000 a year in terms of cable revenues. So even though we don't look specifically at numbers, that means that over the next 10 years, we're going to lose $8 million. Maybe the trends will reverse, but probably not. So structurally and process-wise, how will CMA be prepared to adjust to this kind of diminishing reality? You yourself, Nancy, mentioned that we need to make sure that we sustain this unusual, unique, and very impactful alliance. And I'm glad that Julie Knight is listening, because she has to kind of put on her thinking hat as well to make sure that what remains is in fact a viable alliance with the wherewithal to be able to take those messages where our residents are. So perhaps we can talk just a little bit from both from the committee side as well as from the CMA leadership side of how does one adjust to major financial challenges in the aggregate, in the big picture. And again, after when you have a chance to look at the operating budget, you're going to be able to make some decisions as the committee and then as the full council. But this is a good preparation. I see my friend Dick has his hand up, so I'll cede the floor.
Mr. Lipsky. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. Thank you, Dr. Turregas, of course. I would be, before I begin shortly, I would be remiss in not thanking the council, the GO committee, and Dr. Turregas for their leadership throughout this process, but also the last 3 years, last 2.5 years in particular. It's been very challenging. I think the constant questions, the focus, the leadership that Ms. Navarro has brought to the committee for so many years and has made a difference for us. I mean, you have been our rock, and I wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done for us and also for the county. I mean, it's been amazing, really. Dr. Turregas, when he comes to see us once or twice a year, it's one of our highlights because he comes in and he doesn't give us answers. He asks questions. He's very Socratic-like. You know, I feel like I'm taking graduate courses at Penn State University. I went to grad school. And it's very insightful, but it gets us to the place where we need to be. He doesn't tell us how to get there, but he guides us, and he lets us come up with the answers. And I think he relies upon the knowledge and skills of the managers, as well as the collective spirit of how we're going to get there. So I did want to thank each and every one of you for all the insights that you've provided to us over the years and the focus you've allowed us to broaden over the last 3 years for sure, but even longer than that in terms of why we're here. One of the things that I think is worth saying is that the nature of what we do has transitioned over the last decade in terms of there's a lot of technology out there that did not exist 10 years ago. And one of them is the role of AI. And I'll give you an example of how we've saved a lot of money just from the knowledge of the chief engineer at Montgomery College. I'm just using one concrete example. Melissa Pace has a gentleman working for her, Arcar, who is just a fabulous person, incredibly knowledgeable. Not to brag on Melissa's stuff because she does a great job, but Arcar is our go-to person in terms of knowledge about AI, artificial intelligence, and how to get there. So just this past year, last year, for example, I'll give one concrete example because we all like to hear examples and how they relate to real world experiences. Mrs. Navarro has taught us that. That Arcar came up with a solution. Instead of hiring a company to do captioning, we do a lot of captioning. We did almost 300 hours of captioning last year, believe it or not. I counted yesterday 55 board meetings and 18 other live events. That's 73 events that we did last year that were live, that were hybrid, incidentally. They weren't just live, they were hybrid. Last year we spent over $35,000 in captioning costs. This year we're going to save $24,000 because we went to a new solution. And that is something that Montgomery College had introduced the year before with a company that basically does live captioning, but the machines do it, the technology does it. So we have that both now in English and Spanish on our Spanish channel as well. And we don't pay a company in Florida, Azure Communications, AZUR, to do it for us. We have a piece of equipment here that actually does it, and it's 95% accurate. So just from this past year alone, I was looking at some of the numbers to just show how we've saved the money. We've saved $24,000 just in cost this year, and the college has saved $29,000 just in cost just this year alone. So we're talking about, a very good start to how do we become more efficient in the work that we do with not an increase in cost, and perhaps it looks like there may be a decrease in terms of our budget. But we have to come up with smarter solutions. We have to know who the audience is. We have to be able to reach them in a timely fashion, and we have to reach all of them in a multi-platform way. And I think we're on the road there. We're not there yet because this is a fluid state. But I do think that kind of example of saving all this money just in one solution alone points to the future about how we're going to be smarter, more aware of our work, how we get to produce things that are original content that are not seen anywhere else, that are idiosyncratic to Montgomery County. And I don't have to go any further than to look at the incredible solution that Montgomery Community Media did over the last 5 years under Nanette's leadership. Think about where they were 5 years ago and where they are today. It's amazing. I mean, it's a case study that you could read about in graduate school. And I know, obviously Nanette knows far more than I do about the incredible success that they've had, but they transformed themselves while they were building the plane while they were flying it. I mean, it was unbelievable. And if you see where they are today and all the options they provide to the county, that is a microcosm of the kind of thing that we all have to do in the next decade, Mr. Navarro, Mr. Friedson, and of course, Mr. Katz. We are aware that there's no one size that fits all. We are aware that we must remain fluid in our environment. We are aware that we must have a level playing field in Montgomery County, no matter what we hear in the United States. This is a great place to live, and it's because of the people that live here and the intelligence they bring to what we do. So that is my reactions to where we are, Ms. Navarro, where we need to be. And Frederick Douglass, it's one of the sayings I have in my office. Frederick Douglass once said, if there is no struggle, there is no success. So we know what it's like on both ends, and we're proud to be moving in the successful side, thanks to your leadership and the council's leadership.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lipsky. I obviously have been a big fan of yours since my days serving on the Board of Education, and have seen how you've also provided guidance to navigate to the next level. And I was having this conversation with someone yesterday about how there are people who kind of get stuck, right? And they just refuse to see that things have changed and to adapt. And it's so important as we get, as we navigate through all these different times, to keep an open mind and to recognize that there are things that we may not know, but other people are, and then learn from them, right? I mean, I like I said, I learn a lot from my young adult daughters, and I think it's so important. You are an example of somebody that continuously provides the experience, but also guides folks to this next level, and you show that by example. And it's kind of funny that you said that about Dr. Turregas, because I will confess that, when I first started chairing this committee, there were times I felt really frustrated because I was like, it looks like a college, class. And Dr. Turregas would come and he would just throw these open-ended questions, and I would sit there and I felt like I was back in college trying to figure out, well, what's the answer? But by now, I'm like, I think I have like a PhD in several subjects just through Dr. Turregas. So I have appreciated so much that whole entire way of guiding us through all of these really big, complex issues. But I will confess that there were times that I would just, struggle with like, I just want to put forth the right answer, but I don't know what that is type situation. And he's done that masterfully. So we're so lucky that he has been guiding us as well. Let's see, Councilmember Katz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And thank you to all who are on this call. And it's good to see so many good friends here as well. And thank you for what you're doing. Coordination is so very important. And you have made it seem very easy. And we all know it's not easy, especially to coordinate when people have such different interests, but have a similar goal. And so we do thank you for that. And I appreciate for everything that you're doing. Madam Chair has certainly mentioned so much, and I don't need to repeat that. But one thing that you were talking about before was we have a diminishing revenue from cable, and you know what that's going to mean. I remember years ago, and I'm going back longer than a week ago, but I took a course in college on advertising, and they suggested that, you know, there are businesses that use a percentage of their business for advertising, and that, you know, that's the way that they go forward. However, when business diminishes, that means your advertising diminishes, and candidly, it should be the other way around. If you're having business issues, then you need to advertise more so that you can get back to where you need to get to. So I think we have to keep that in mind. I think that the fact that we are going to have less revenue does not necessarily mean, in fact, it absolutely doesn't mean that we're not going to have the same need and the same concerns about communication. So I certainly am one that will keep that in mind as we go forward. The other question that I do have is, you had the slide up, and I guess it was one of Barry's slides, that talked about ensuring Comcast activates the final HD channel. Does that mean, like as an example, Fios, Verizon, have they already activated the channel? Why is Comcast mentioned there and no other carrier?
Melissa, Melissa Pace, do you want to answer that question for us?
Sure, or obviously Joe Webster can also step in. But in the agreement that Comcast made at the last franchise contract expiration term, they agreed to give 4 HD channels originally and then a 5th at a later time. And
Right.
so with the changeover in the county executive and in TEB's CIO, that took a little bit longer. Of course, the pandemic. So that finally rose back to the top level of things that needed to get done. But Verizon, their franchise agreement does not include any HD channels at this time. So we are not in HD, and none of the channels are in HD on Verizon. And with the franchise renegotiations coming up with both Comcast and Verizon, maybe that's something that we'll get to look at. And of course, Mr. Webster can speak more on that.
Thank you.
I will just follow up. We have made a recommendation on the allocation of the 5th HD channel to the county executive just in the very recent past. So we expect his review of that and decision imminently in the next week. We do not anticipate any problems from Comcast or with Comcast in terms of activating that 5th channel. And I think the recommendation we made is what all the CMA members requested. So I don't anticipate any issues.
And do you remember off the top of your head when the negotiations for the next contract with Fios would be?
Actually, we are in the negotiation window with both Comcast and Verizon Fios for renewing or extending their existing cable franchises now. Things have been moving slowly, largely, I think, due to COVID. But our county attorney's office and our broadband staff have been communicating and trying to kickstart that process.
Very good.
Joe, would you identify when the current agreement expired?
Current agreement actually expired, I believe it was last December. And I would need to double check that, but I believe last November and December, depending on whether it was Comcast or Verizon. But they're both expired, but continuing under the old franchise until we do reach a new franchise agreement.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information, and I yield back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that in terms of the themes, I did hear that the collaboration coordinator was hired. Is that what you said, Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Cool. That was one of the things that I know was on our list. And I think that would be very helpful, obviously, as you continue to do this work. Anything else, Dr. Turregas, that we needed to discuss?
No, I just wanted to brief the committee that there is a parallel effort in this kind of assembling lots of diverse people with a view towards the individual, our resident, and go where they are. And that's a countywide initiative that was started by the executive maybe a year ago. Barry, you were in those meetings about a single citizen view and how to connect all the various departments. So in a sense, the CMA has been running ahead and preparing a communications channel for this integrated look towards the resident. I would presume that in March 15th, we'll all be hearing something about this initiative. I don't think the GO committee has formally heard about this initiative, but it's something that's very important. And I'm just drawing the parallel. The CMA as a communications vehicle that organizes multiple organizations and agencies towards our resident is a little bit ahead of that effort to coordinate budgets and service delivery mechanisms towards our residents. So all's good. I don't have anything else for you today. Again, watch this space carefully for March 15th when decisions will be announced.
Awesome. So is that an initiative that would come through the GO committee for throughout the budget deliberations, or is this something separate?
I don't believe that the initiative would come through directly as a budget activity, but the collaboration really is kind of looking across the enterprise as a kind of essentially putting the customer at the center, or the resident at the center of our activities, and the enterprise looking at it in that way. And to Dr. Turregas' point, we're a part of that touch point. So as you look at the different channels through which we're touching residents and businesses and the like, we're one of those collaborations that'll take place. So between TEBS, 311, OCP, PIO, like there are all these different ways that we're reaching out and connecting with residents, and just trying to coordinate how that looks across the enterprise, and how we ensure that we're providing timely information, timely support, accurate information. But the other thing that we didn't talk a lot about, which is, kind of our structure of one-way communications. We're now the world it's two-way at least. And that's a big part of what we've got to build into the structure, is that response time. So that's what this initiative is really about, through the county executive's office. So it will probably come in through pieces, but not as one big kind of budget request.
Okay. So basically you're integrating the different sort of agencies and efforts that are in charge of communicating with the public and how to engage the public, but not necessarily adding any, staffing or anything like that. It's just mostly this kind of internal. That's great. I think it would be nice to have a presentation to the GO committee because it is government operations. And I think that would be helpful so that the council understands how that's going. I also hope that there is a link to our council communications office, because I think that there's just such integration with, what the administration does in terms of communication with the public and engagement, and then what the council also does. And oftentimes, as we've always said, the public can't differentiate many times, right? And so, we need to figure out how to be seamless in that sort of front-facing, but also gathering input from the community. But yeah, that sounds real exciting. I would love to definitely learn more about that.
And one of the ways you will hear about it as the GO committee is the review of the MC311 budget, because it is my intention to give you an overall look at how the resident communicates with the council, with the executive branch, and of course.
All the components that Mr. Hudson just described all go through GO in terms of budget. So I think it would be good to maybe schedule the budget review through that lens, so that way there's an understanding of that integration when we get to the budget deliberation. I think that might be kind of cool, just so that we're all on the same page. It's a thought.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciated and enjoyed this briefing, and you guys are doing a great job, and we look forward to continuing the conversation, et cetera, as we go.
Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.